so we are back with another episode of Thinking Hacked. I was forced to say that by Jiva Can Do Me, although I hate to say that, because I just really like to jump into the topic, okay? And we'll do that. So the topic for this week is whether a person can be moral without religion, right? So let's just jump straight into the topic, right? So before we started recording, we were having this conversation on our own. And so let me direct that question towards Talia first. Talia, do you believe in God? And if you do believe in God, what's the image that you have of him at the moment, or her, or it?
I do believe that there is God, that there is a God. I believe that there is a higher power governing us, and I believe that there is a balance to the universe. So along those lines of thinking, that I believe that there is an I wouldn't say equal, but then I believe that there is evil as well.
Okay.
In the balance.
So God is good, and there's an opposite of God, which is evil,
Yes.
which can be the devil
Satan
or
devil.
some,
Yes.
like, okay.
But I don't believe that God is using us as his little minions, to do
Okay.
his work, and like the devil's using certain people as minions. No. But I believe that they are, because there's a hierarchy, and they're probably at the top of the hierarchy. That being said, I believe that good is done because of humanity. I believe that you do good to people, good things come back to you.
Okay.
Not in a karmic universe sort of way that there's not hoodoo or something that's going to come and do bad stuff to you. But I believe that if you do something good to someone else, they will do it back to you, consciously or unconsciously.
So what you're saying is basically our actions have consequences, and it doesn't have anything to do with God. It's all our doing. Like if you do something bad and if you do something good, it's all on us and it's not on God, right?
It's not on God, because we're humans, we have free will. There's a reason why we're walking on 2 legs and doing the things we do, as opposed to walking on 4 legs and eating the garbage that people are putting out.
Okay.
We have that sort of thinking where we can make our own choices, and the choices that we make reflect how other people make their choices to us, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So for that reason, do you believe that we don't need God, or we don't need a religion to do the right thing? Or do you think it kind of helps?
Definitely helps. It definitely helps, but I've always had this question, like when you are like at the end of the day, if you have a kid right now, and if you have to teach your kid how to do the right thing and the wrong thing,
Yeah.
how are you going to justify it? Are you going to tell your kid, don't steal somebody else's thing? But are you going to say, because God is watching you and God will punish you afterwards? Or are you going to say, no, it's because it's somebody else's and you wouldn't like that done to you?
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of thing. So I'm not saying that God is unnecessary in this scenario. It's just that, I mean, I grew up as a Catholic, in a Catholic household where we go to church every Sunday, and then, you have the Sunday lunch and everything. So that, with the whole 10 commandments, where we grew up with the childhood Bible, and then you have the 10 commandments told to you when you're at the age of understanding right and wrong. I'm not entirely, but then where you need sort of guidance, where it says, okay, you put God above everything else, and then you put good actions above everything else in your life. Don't steal, don't kill, don't cheat, things like that. So that was definitely a guide. But that being said, I think at this point, when I want to do something good, I don't do it because the 10 commandments, because that plaque is there.
Sure.
It's because it's been inculcated into our line of thinking, our culture, and our morals, basically.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, I would agree that we do need religion, but I'm guessing if you're stuck to your roots 100%, you can't really branch out.
Sure.
You're going to be stuck at your trunk.
Yeah. So you said that you go to church on Sundays, right? You try to?
Yes.
Okay. Or at least you used to. Like when you were a kid, you used to.
As a kid,
right?
yes.
So do you think if there is a God, this God likes to take attendance, like every Sunday. Okay,
No.
Talia was here this Sunday. Tick. Okay.
I think it's something that we do it like, like sort of for our own progress and for our own good, right? Not that God is punishing you if you don't go to church. It's not. As a kid, of course, that we used to believe that.
Yeah, as a kid, like my mom would tell me that, if you don't go to Sunday, it's a mortal. If you don't go to church on Sunday, it's a mortal sin. You're going to be burning in hell if you don't. And I don't really know. I don't really know how to get out of that line of thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
So okay, this.
So you need to answer these questions as well.
I know, right?
The questions that I asked you.
Yeah, you need to
Okay,
answer.
so let me start with the last question that I asked you, right? Whether going to church is something that God would want from you, right? So I was told by a friend of mine that wherever the location where a number of people gather for a common cause, it's a political movement, right? So that's how he looked at masses as well. I mean, when I say masses, I mean the mass, the church, right? The Sunday mass, basically. Then that got me thinking. I mean, obviously, anyone would agree that the Catholic Church, the clergy, the Vatican, to some extent, were corrupt at like all these points in time, right? For example, like this was ages ago.
Yeah.
There was a time that you had to pay to do your confession, right? So like if you
actually in Europe, still paying for the church is a must. There's a taxes. Yeah, you have to pay to be part of the church. You have to pay taxes apparently.
So here's my question to you, Surit. If you don't need religion, I'm sort of contradicting myself, but if you don't need religion to inflict morals upon your line of thinking, on what basis are you going to teach your kids?
Okay, so first of all, regarding this topic, I am not for or against religion. I will answer your question, I'll come to that. But first, I guess I need to say I'm not debating for or against the topic that we are talking about today. So for that reason, it's very difficult for me to answer your question because at the moment, so personally, I would, if it was up to me, and it is going to be someday, if it was a decision between do I raise my kids with religion or without, I'd say with religion up to a certain age. The reason for that is there are certain stories involved, included in religion that that's very easy for the kids to grasp at that age, right? Other than us like trying to explain the morality or the ethics of that particular right or wrong thing to do, it comes with the story. And kids love stories, right? So I mean, at some point they'll be like, what the fuck does this story mean? But then I think up to a certain age, that story needs to go into their head for them to really grasp the ethic in their own way, right? So it depends. Like on, for example, like we had this earlier conversation. We had a previous episode about like the sex education in Sri Lanka, right? So my point was again that you need to educate children at different levels. Like you need to teach them different things at different ages. For example, if you're in the first grade, you're not going to be talking about reproduction. You're going to be talking about like how to touch a girl and how not to touch a girl, right? And let's say when you get to a certain age, then you can teach the kids about reproduction. So for me, it's the same thing with religion, right? At different ages, you need to. So one thing that religion doesn't do is it doesn't sort of like upgrade with the age like other sciences do, right? That's obviously because religion isn't a science, right? It's a belief, it's a spiritual thing, which is fine. But my point is, you need to. I think it'll be kind of cool if religion too kind of evolves as children grow older, right? With different age groups. I think it'll be cool if the complexity of these stories kind of evolve. For example, the story of like Adam and Eve and the tree of good and evil and things like that, right?
Yes.
For a Christian child, I mean, it makes sense at a particular age, but then when they grow up, I think it could mean something totally different, right? So like again, like so in the Bible and I guess in the Quran and some other, maybe the Jewish text as well, there are certain things that can be taken very literally, right? Certain laws and certain principles like that. But then there are these parables, there are these stories that can be interpreted the way you want as well, right? So that is my so to answer your question directly, yes, I would want my children to grow up with religion up to a certain point, and then I would want them to then I would give them the freedom to like just study the depth of it, and like like go into their own philosophies, and like just do their own studies and figure it out themselves.
The universe theories, which I explored like a couple of years back, like about 2-3 years, and I read a few books, and it's really interesting. It doesn't say about a religion. It's about like that like I said, that the higher power which governs us, but we also are connected. Every single human being or every single creation is connected to it, to the higher creator, right? So, for example, you can argue saying that I am a strong Catholic, I am Catholic, and say that I have experienced my life throughout how I have got, for example, we do believe that prayers works, and then whatever that we pray for manifests, right? So you could argue saying that, okay, my God is real, that I pray for this, I get this because of this, right? Now I could say like, okay, I go to Kovil, my God is this, I was taught like this, and these kind of sacrifices do actually work out to be the best, or the results comes with the best way, right? And so likewise, we could argue that based on our experiences and our learnings, we could argue like, okay, our God is the best, our religion is the best because of these scenarios. So the law of attraction, which are the power of universe, is about, there's this one creation or one God who is who, in the sense, like, it's not a person, but it's just like a universal thing, right? So I think that is the same theory which I don't know if they have. Okay, so there's a book called Divine Matrix, which has a lot of research.
Sounds
and
good. I like the name.
Okay, so by Greg Braden, and the theory is about it. The book has a lot of research from these mountains. What is this mountain where the monks are?
What?
The Himalayas, in Himalayas.
Okay, yeah.
The monks from Himalayas to other priests and everything.
Okay.
And he had done this research, and his theory is where it's sort of free religion, where we believe that that we are creators by ourselves.
Okay.
So we are.
You mean like we are God ourselves? That's all.
Yes, we are God in the sense, like, not to the point that we are overpowering, overruling somebody else.
But there is some divine in us. That's
yes, exactly. We are all connected, and then we are all divine creators. Yeah. And like everything is connected to everything. Sort of a theory.
Since
I want to know how morality comes into this. I'm really sorry, Suresh. Yeah. So how does the whole cycle of doing good and doing bad, and how you do things, how does this particular law have a theory for it?
Actually, I don't think they address the morality of the people or the humans, but then the theory is like basically it's basically that we are all connected to each other, and that we are like God up by ourselves, and that that we can change that we are the sole owner of our own life and soul, and we can direct it to either ways that we believe in. So, for example, I think the literal theory is about, it's like basically if you, like Jivika said, that if you are so there's some, what do you call it? I think you said that, right? There's some theory, simulation theory, right?
Oh yeah.
Simulation theory, that if you like decide to go in this way, that's what if what happens, right? So I think it's more of like it's not a simulation theory, but then you are the creator. You are the God.
Right.
But answering your question to the morality part, I don't think they're addressing that questions that much, according to my knowledge so far. But maybe there is a aspect to it as well. But what I believe is that, I think there is a part of karma to it. For example, they are more of like people who are taking actions, but then you are responsible of your own actions. In the sense, it's more of like a karma aspect to
there's
it.
this concept called moral relativism, right? It's kind of like how I always say everything is relative, right? So basically what this concept says is that, you know, like, see, there are all these different religions, different races, different beliefs, and different philosophies scattered around the globe, right? And so what moral relativism says is that there isn't one of them which is better than the other, right? Basically how this applies to religion is that you can't basically rank order all these religions and say, okay, Buddhism is best, or Christianity is best, or something like that, right? But the problem, so it's an interesting concept on its own, but the problem with this concept is, when you dive deep into the philosophies of these different tribes or religions or whatever, cultures, there is at least some point where it clashes, no? Right? For example, like, there are, in certain Middle Eastern countries, the minimum age for child marriage is like 12 or 14, if I'm not mistaken, right? So if you bring that to a Western culture, they'll be like, what the fuck, right? But in the point of view of that Middle Eastern culture, that's the right thing to do for them, right? So moral relativism basically says that there is no right or wrong, that to each their own kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So the problem with that concept is, I feel like it generalizes everything too much. And like, for example, in that way, you can even generalize something very serious like murder. Like, you can say, like, so what, right? It goes down that, you know, alley, that, you know, rabbit hole that, you know, that's very hard for you to come out of. So that is one concept that, you know, like, brings religion into the question again.
Yes.
But my problem with religion has just always been the dogma, right? So dogmatism is basically like, if you just put it in layman's terms, it's something that you believe in that doesn't change irrespective of anything. Like, for example, you will believe that, let's say, that Jesus was the Son of God, right? And no matter how many times someone proves you wrong, you will refuse to believe the argument. You will completely, like, before they even start their argument, you will completely ignore the argument if you are dogmatic. So my problem with religion has always been that religion is dogmatic and that it doesn't evolve, like,
This is same.
to some extent, right? So, and I'm not just talking about Christianity specifically, that's just the example that I took. But then, like, you know, there are so many religious leaders that, you know, believe in all these age-old philosophies that refuse to move out of them with time, right? So that has just very simply been my problem with religion, like, throughout. And it's I feel like it's changing though, like, with time, that with the newer generations, that people are adapting to that change, that people are kind of evolving their religion. Like, for example, certain practices that happened before, like, I don't know, like, maybe sacrificing lambs or sacrificing goats or whatever, doesn't happen anymore, right? So so I mean, that way people are evolving every day, which is a good thing. So so my point is, religion, like any other philosophy, needs to evolve with time, and it's a dogma that is embedded so deeply in religion that stops it from doing so. That has been my problem.
Okay, but adding, not really adding on to it, but something that I don't agree on that concept is that as we grow up, we have so much going on around us that religion gets pushed aside.
Okay.
When you're a child, you have that specific period in school where you have to sit down and learn the book. When you grow up, your priorities change, your commitments are different. You're not going to make, a lot of people don't make an active effort to sit down and read whatever religious scripture that they want to read. So in that sense, that may be one of the reasons why you feel that it hasn't evolved, because we have that inculcated behavior which was inflicted with as a child. From that, it didn't really evolve from that stage. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you believe in the Big Bang Theory, or do you believe that God created the universe?
So like I said earlier, I'm an agnostic, so like basically I don't know what to believe, but so now I know that sounds like a Weasley answer, but that's the truth, right?
Okay.
Like I told you earlier, like I mean, if you don't know something, I just say that I don't know something, right?
Yeah.
So like I don't have enough proof. I mean, I don't like so have
you're
scientists.
Like in the neutral. You're neutral. You're neither believing
No, I mean, like, if there is proof, if there is scientific proof for something, I mean, you have to believe it, right? Like for example, like you can't say that I don't believe in gravity. Like who no one says that, right? I mean, you are a fucking idiot if you say I don't believe in gravity. So like obviously there has been years and years of proof to prove gravity. So you have to believe it whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So like if there's some scientific data that backs it up, I will believe in the Big Bang Theory. And I think there is substantial data to back up the Big Bang Theory. So I do believe in the Big Bang. But I mean, for all we know, it could have been God who did the Big Bang, right? So there's an interesting story about how since we're talking about this topic, there's an interesting story about how atheism was born, right? I mean, this is not like the definition of like time and place. It wasn't born exactly in this particular time and place, but most people, I mean, agree that this is like the birth of atheism, basically, like in the world, right? So I think this incident took place in the 1500s, if I'm not mistaken, right? In Italy, right? So Italy, like now, even back then they were like more religious than they are now, right? I mean, they still are, but like back then, like they were probably, I think there's this particular town in Italy that was back then the most religious town in the world, right? And they have this feast called the All Saints Day, which was back then the biggest feast for the entire calendar, right? And on this particular day, basically the entire town like gathers around the temple and just to pray. So that entire day is basically a day of celebration and a day of prayer, right? And it's a big deal for them, right? So yeah, on this day of All Saints Feast, there was an earthquake, right? And this earthquake basically destroyed half the city, right? And so back then, the churches were the tallest structures in the world, and especially in Italy, right? So the first to collapse were the churches, right? And all the people were gathered around the churches, which means all those people died.
Yeah.
Right? And then soon after the earthquake, there was a tsunami, right? And then the rest of the people died as well. So that's when this argument, this kind of like what would you call it, kind of like paradox arose. Basically, this is how it goes. So that incident was basically the birth of atheism as we know it today, because there was a big question that came out of that particular incident, right? So this was like a really holy city, and on the exact same day, on the only particular day that the entire city gathers to pray for God, the entire city was destroyed, right? So then there was this question that came about, can God be all good, right? So this is how it goes. It goes like this. So if God is all good, they said that God cannot be all powerful. And if God is all powerful, he cannot be all good, right? So basically what that means is, if God had the power to stop that atrocity, that means he's not a good person. Whereas like he had the power but he didn't do anything about it. If he wanted to stop it and he couldn't, that means he wasn't all powerful. So it has to be one of the two, basically. That's the argument there, right? He cannot be all powerful and all good at the same time because of all these atrocities that happen in the world. So that was the argument that they had. The first the first group of atheists that were born from this particular incident in Italy. So I thought that was like an interesting story, and that was actually how all these like debates actually started.
Yeah. Okay. to wrap things up, so actually to answer your question, would I tell my kid that Christianity is the right religion? No. Because if you ask me in 1 year if Christianity is the perfect religion, I might not know. My views on it might be different. Because right now, the Quran makes more sense than the Bible does. I know I might sound like a very confused person who's not very grounded right now.
Okay.
But there's certain things like, you know how everybody says that the Bible and the Quran is the same thing. But then the Quran is more descriptive and it makes more sense. It's telling you why
it is
why the things that happened in the Bible happened. And it's also telling you, look here, this is what's coming. This is what, when it comes to the sense of the book of Revelations and the end of the world, if you believe in that sort of thing, what the Bible says is that, okay, Jesus is gonna come down for the second time, everything's gonna be destroyed, and then you're gonna die. If you do good, you're going up. If you don't do good, you're going down, and you're going to burn. That's it. But the Quran's more descriptive. The Quran says, okay, there's going to be a time where you will feel time moving faster. That's when you know that the end is near. So, and you know, then I am not sure how much this is true, but this is what one of my friends told me. So she said that in the Quran it says that when the end is near, the gap between the elderly and the kids shortens.
Okay, sure.
Okay, and that really didn't make sense, a lot of sense to me. So I asked her, what does that mean? And she said,
healthcare.
No, it doesn't. Okay. That's not what it means. What she meant by it, what her understanding of it was, so let's say your grandfather told your father not to go outside and play after 6 o'clock. Your father would say, fine, I'm not going to go after 6. By 5:55, he's home.
Yeah.
But today, if your father told you not to go home, not to go out and play after 6 o'clock, you're going to ask him why. And you're both going to engage in a conversation. He's going to tell you, look here, this is why.
Okay.
And you're going to give him a counter argument and you're going to say, this is why not.
Okay.
That age gap between the two generations.
So basically, there's going to be a time where you're going to go clubbing with your dad.
Right? I mean, I have friends who go clubbing with their parents.
Sure, yeah, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So that age gap is shortening. And those are like things, these are things that were written in the Quran millions of years ago.
Wrapping up today's sessions with counter arguments about morality and religion, with 2 atheists and 2 Christians and very confused people around religion and morality.
Anyways,
would like to know what you think, guys. Comment your ideas and opinions below, and let us know what you think of. Until next time, see you.